Hey, welcome to Live Below Zero with Johnny. Johnny is coming to us from the Brooks Range, courtesy of Starlink. And of course, there's Java. Johnny, how's it going out there?
Good. I'm in the interior of Alaska. I'm not up in the Arctic above the Arctic Circle at the Brooks Range camp. I'm in the interior of Alaska. Um so I just kind of finished building a cabin here. So this will be my third remote cabin. Um but there's not really service there. So I had the snow machine. Java and I took the snow machine and found a little spot tucked away in the woods, and I have just enough reception to do this interview or whatever, or this hangout. It's more of a hangout.
It is. Of course, I'm sorry to tell you, Johnny, nobody is here to see you. Everybody is only here to see Java. So let's uh let's see a little bit of Java. I can see Java
Yeah, yeah.
down there. Hi, Java.
Say hi, Java. We're sitting on a caribou rug, of course. Caribou hide, as always. She's got some grays coming in, From, there it is. From the stresses of filming. No.
So while we so try to get there we go. Try to get a little more stable.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
It's on a backpack, so it's not ideal. There we go.
Awesome. So what first let's give an update on Java and then we'll start talking about you. How's Java doing?
Java's doing great. She had that surgery, and they weren't sure she was going to make it. At first, they thought it was cancer, and then she had a pulmonary Ebola, and then like a disease that spread to her lungs. So while they were in there doing the Ebola, they removed half her lungs. So the left lung lobes were removed. So it was terminal, even though it wasn't cancer, if they didn't remove it. So I thank you to everybody that supported her through all that. She's doing great. She's tired right now. She just chased me a couple of miles behind the snow machine. She's doing good. So, her stamina's back, and she's losing her eyesight though, just with age. Other than that, she's kicking ass. So, yeah.
How did you find Java?
I was in South Carolina. I was living in South Carolina. I had a farm out there. I'm not from there. It's just one of the 25 states I've lived in or something. And um, I went to this like a rescue adoption place, and she was available, and she was big, and I thought she was a couple of years old, and she was like 4 months, 5 months old. Um, and the lady said she got 25 applications a day. A lot of them were like bird hunters, like Chevy's got a Chesapeake Bay Retriever as well that he uses for birds. I use Javas all around, just like kind of camp guard. And the lady liked that I rescued her from. She liked my application because I said she's just going to be outdoors with me all day, every day. And a lot of people are like, she'll be in a kennel, she'll be only hunting and wearing a radio collars and all that kind of fancy hunting equipment, and she wasn't into that, so she let me adopt her.
That's great. She's had a great life. Is having a
Yeah,
great life. Moving
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there with you. So first, why don't we start a little bit about let's talk about your history on the show. Obviously, as fans know, you were on Next Generation first.
Mhm.
How did we find you? How did you get on the show?
Ah,
Did you know about
that's
the show beforehand?
yeah, I did. Yeah. So that's a funny one. I don't know if you remember the story. I'm sure you do. So, um, I was doing so it's yeah, God, where do I start on that one? Basically, I was fulfilling my dream of living in Alaska that I've had since before there were even shows on Alaska, and since I was about 8 years old, I've been wanting to come up here. Well, I was getting bush flight quotes to get to the Brooks Range because there's no roads, you can't just drive there, except for that haul road. But it's calling a lot of pilots, and I realized how expensive it was. It's about $4,000, I think, at the time, round trip from Fairbanks. So it's about a 2 hour flight one way. So for a pilot to drop me off and then come pick me up is about 4 grand. And I probably think I had just maybe 5 or 6 grand to my name at that time. So um, I'm a businessman too, inside, and a hustler. I did a lot of hustling in my day. So I decided, well, how about I find somebody to help me out with this venture financially and maybe even get paid to do it. So I watched the show of Life Below Zero, and on the credits, I saw a casting agent, which is Allie, and I was like, okay, I got to send her an email, and I couldn't find her, and I didn't have social media at the time, So I was like, how do I get in touch with her? How do I send her an email? So I just started looking around on my iPhone on the internet, different at bbcamerica.com, at natgeo.com, and I found about 10 different ones, like a list, and I think I sent about 30 or 40 emails, just hoping I hit her email. So I tried like Allie.Siegel, A.Siegel, Allie.S, and then at all the different, at natgeo.com, at blah, blah, blah.com. So I probably sent 30, 40 different emails, and I got an email back like pretty instantaneously. I don't remember. No, I think you guys called me, and I remember
Well,
seeing
I
a,
do remember this part of the story, which is we were in Anchorage, actually at the
uh-huh,
Anchorage Museum, walking
yeah.
around. Ali said, "I just got an interesting email," and I remember thinking, "That's not that person's not real. That seems amazing." But it's pretty cool that I think, as far as I know, maybe a couple people on Next Gen, as far as I know, you were able to see Life Below Zero before going out there. And
Yeah.
it's okay if it's not the case. I knew you obviously were outdoors growing up your whole life, but did Life Below Zero have an influence on you moving to Alaska, or any help, or what was the?
Um, I think what it did was, if anything, it showed me kind of all the shows, especially if I were to watch any of them now, which I don't really have a way to, but you can kind of see a little bit more reality. Like there's a lot more truth. There's a lot more just honesty, I guess. In Life Below Zero, and I remember seeing like for example the hailstones. One of them stuck to me. They went to get on their snow machines, and they found rocks in their gas tank. And, it's not all perfect up here. It's not like this dream that a lot of shows kind of paint it as, right? Like like life is going to be so much better when you get out to Alaska and you're living off grid. There's still people doing stuff like that, putting rocks in gas tanks or vandalism or whatever it may be. So you guys showing that through documentation, it really opened my eyes to, I guess, a better reality in a way, but a small glimpse of it, of course. Does that kind of make sense?
It does, and that's one of the things we wanted to try to show with Next Gen. Obviously, there are people like
Mhm.
the Rolands or the Roaches who have lived out here, but there are a lot of people who have the outdoor experience, like yourself, who have come to Alaska, but we're just getting started in their
Yeah,
Alaskan dream, and that it's not. I'm not telling you this, obviously, but it's not easy, nor is it cheap
you're
to
right.
to leave your life behind and move out there. So maybe talk a little bit about your experience leaving, if you will say that, sort of leaving the lower 48 behind and getting to Alaska. For example, did you have a job and you quit your job, or what got you to make the trip up north?
It's just time and money and knowledge and some land. Um, it's something I've always wanted to do.
But
I
why?
ended up,
Did
I
you did you read books about Alaska? Did
yeah,
you yeah.
yeah. There's that, and then there's just something just in me, something I don't know, innate or whatnot, that just has always, as a little kid, if you gave me a wooden block or a plastic toy, I would grab the wooden block. I just Lincoln Logs. It's just the only thing I can come up with is just I feel like I'm like fulfilling something that was here before me within myself, if that makes sense. It's like I'm just going through the motions of what I was supposed to be doing. I don't really know how to explain it. It's not like because I know a lot of people that have come out here and tried, and whether they failed or succeeded, it's just still not for them, and they end up leaving because they want it to be this thing. This romantic idea of being in a cabin, sipping a cup of tea, looking through the window. That's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. You can only do that for 20 minutes before you want to go crazy. And I know everybody at their city job or at their desk might be thinking, no, no, that's what I want to do. You will go insane. You have to have purpose. You have to have a reason to get out of bed and do stuff, not just look out of a picture window at a mountain. And a lot of those people that have done that have left. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm just fulfilling something inside of me that has been wanting to be fulfilled. I don't know where it came from or what. Um, I know you and I goofed the other day about, John Rolfe married Pocahontas. That was something I learned very early on. So I have the same birth name, first and last name, and that's always stuck with me as well. And I've just always been attracted to just kind of more of like a primitive lifestyle. And I mean, we all come from hunter gatherers, right? Every single one of us do. It's just there's some that are more recent than others. So like the indigenous people of Alaska or North America, that was, I mean, they were in the Stone Age in the Brooks Range in 200 years ago. They were in the Stone Age in North America, and you think about that. That's wild. 200 years ago, and it's just an attractive way to live for me. But they're not the only ones that have done it. They're just the most recent, So
You've talked a little bit about your past, and some of your struggles.
yeah,
Is part of that attraction, sort of cleaner living or maybe being away from chaos and distraction? Is that part of the attraction of Alaska?
yeah. I've been wanting to get to Alaska, didn't know how to make that a reality. And then with other struggles in my life, that led to like a lot of that drug abuse. And so the Alaska was there before that. Um, and I thought about it every single day before I would go to bed or nod off or pass out or whatever. I would think like, man, if I was just in, Alaska or living off the land, I would be so much happier. And um, but now that I'm here, there's parallels. I guess I used to do a lot of destruction of my body, right? And now like eating from the land, 90 some percent of what I eat comes from the land. It's part of like that recovery, taking care of my body, taking care of my health. And also I'm very good at survival. I'm very good at um, um, just kind of what's the word?
Like subsistence living, living by
Well,
yourself.
problem solving. Like when I was on the streets and stuff like that. When I was homeless for a lot, like sleeping in cars under bridges and whatever else. I'm doing the same thing now, in a sense. I don't have running water. I don't have electric. Of the three camps I have, I still don't have electric. I don't have running water. I don't have Wi-Fi. Um, it's the same thing. It's the same. It's the same thing. It's just in a different environment. It's one that's more conducive to how I want to live.
Speaking of that environment, I mean, obviously you have Java, but
Yeah.
like, did it take a while to get used to being so isolated and alone? Was that something that you wanted as a kid? Were you more social or were you always a little more introverted?
That's something I'm still to this day trying to figure out. Um, I'm a little bit of both. I don't think you have to pick one, but I'm trying to figure out if my extrovert is something that I've learned, kind of learned behavior, and I do it just to get by. I do it, to get through the awkward conversations when people want to talk about weather and small talk. I feel like I can do that, but I can't do it very long. It's not sustainable. I can do it for a couple minutes. Um, so I don't know if I'm just faking it through the conversation or if I just have like the survival of like I can do it for a couple minutes and then I gotta like bail. Socializing gives me so much anxiety. I get a ton of anxiety being in like settings of people. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, and grow. I'm talking a little bit more about your childhood, and then we'll move on from
Yeah,
there. But you know, we talked about your desire to live in Alaska, but were you always outdoorsy, as a kid? Did you hunt and trap at a young age? And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Indiana, like right outside Chicago. So I guess the closest place people would know would be Gary, Indiana. Great
And
place.
as a kid, were you in the woods? Were you climbing mountains? Were you hunting?
I came from an interesting place. If you look left, it's industrial, steel mill, pretty filthy, disgusting, just poverty. And if you look right, it's cornfields and country. So I kind of have this, I guess, split personality in a way. Maybe that's where the intro extrovert comes from. But um, I again, whether I was or not, I wanted to be. And I tried to, but there was only so much I could do. My dad fishing, I did a lot. My dad took me fishing a ton. As far as hunting goes, not really. First time I ever shot, I thought about this the other day. The first time I ever shot a rifle at an animal was on camera in the Brooks Range. First time I ever shot a rifle with a scope was on camera in the Brooks Range. First time I shot a black bear was on camera. The first time I shot a caribou. The first time I trapped a marten, a wolverine, caught a lake trout, caught a grayling. The list goes on. Snowshoe hare, everything. The first time it's pretty much on camera. I mean, I was in Alaska for what, 6 months before we got in touch. I still haven't been here that long, and it's all still pretty new to me.
That's pretty
Um,
incredible. That was the one of the goals of Next Generation, right? Was to
yep,
find the next generation and see. There are
yep,
a couple of people on the show who, like I mentioned, obviously lived in Alaska for a long time,
yeah.
but there's a couple people who were new. Some are still there, some aren't.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah, yeah.
did you um, did you was it as difficult as you imagined it would be, or were you like, oh, I'm home when you were there? Like I
Oh,
figured, yeah.
immediately home. Absolutely, immediately. Absolutely. There's not a day I don't wake up and feel that way or think that. There's still struggles with it, but I know I'm where I'm supposed to be, physically, mentally. Um, I'm very happy. But there are still struggles of, am I getting the stimulation I need? Like socializing, am I going to turn into one of these hermits you see that you maybe don't want to see? Just like just furry face that's just get off my lawn, hold the shotgun. I don't want to turn into something like that by being away from people too much. So it's a fine line, I'm trying to figure out. And that's why I like what I'm trying to still accomplish and still do is spend the winter in the Brooks Range and then the summer in South Central where there's a lot of black bear, coastal resources, salmon, stuff like that. So I'm still working on that. It's been hard to because of the show. You guys have helped me a lot in a lot of ways. But it's like, okay, I'm gonna start building a new cabin, and then we got to start filming, and it's like, great, that's fantastic. Now that we're done for now, but it seems like we're done. Um, all of the projects and stuff are all just piling up right now, and it's time to do those things. So now I get to focus on myself a little bit more now. So it's a double edged sword, I guess, or the silver lining in it all.
That's interesting. And talk about that. Like, do you think there's a risk for you or for people in general that, like, let's say you're living out there, and then what happens? Cut to like 10 years, you're like, oh, I haven't seen anybody in a long time. Like the more inward you go, um,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of books written, right? Like if you think about like Jack London and those kinds of stories, there's stories about
right.
isolation. And then
Yeah,
ultimately it's like how much do we need people and how much do we want people? And obviously you've got an incredible best friend in Java.
yep.
But you're like you mentioned, you're new-ish there. How are you finding that balance of being alone and then like, oh, now you're at a Walmart in Fairbanks?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, John McPhee, Coming to Alaska, he wrote a book, Coming to Alaska, and he said, um, isolation is like one of the most dangerous things because you isolate yourself from social criticism. And what I took from that is basically I didn't quite know what it meant. And my first time in the Brooks Range all alone, I think it was about a week before I started like hallucinating. Like I didn't know what reality was. I didn't know if I'd already woken up or if I was still dreaming. It was probably like 9 days realistically. And I was like, okay, well, this is what I wanted. So let's figure this out. And I found ways to to give myself company, journaling and stuff like that. You have to. You absolutely have to. But it's not normal to be isolated. So when I read that, what I took from it was you don't have anybody to critique you. You know, you always think you're right. Or you just don't think you're wrong, or you have nobody there to tell you you're wrong, and you start getting this a little delusional on how you think. You don't have any parameters. You know, it's like you go to the bowling alley, they put up those little bumper
Yeah.
rails. Yeah, that's kind of when you're in society, and then you kind of remove those when you're by yourself, and you kind of lose a grasp. It's possible to lose a grasp. So what I did was I journaled. I wrote down in the morning, how I wanted to, or what I'm going to do for the day, and then in the evening I wrote down what I did do, and then right before I went to bed I would write down what I want to be tomorrow, who I want to be tomorrow, and then in the next morning I would read that, and it would kind of put me in check. Like basically it would be a reality check. You have a reality check when you wake up in the morning and you look at your text messages, you see your wife, your kids. You know, I didn't have that reality check up there. Um, so I had to find ways to create a reality check to kind of check myself in.
It's so fascinating. Like the idea that when you're by yourself, there's no touch points
Mm-hmm.
with literally with reality. So it's like, wait, am I dreaming or am I not? And it takes a
Yep.
while, I would imagine, to
And yeah, there's a difference I kind of might have stepped on you, but there's a difference of like you could be alone. When I lived in Seattle before coming here, um, I was alone all the time, and I was just happy as could be. Of course, not so much in the city, but I didn't need people. I felt, and then when I got the property in Homer, there's cabins around my cabin in Homer. Oh, it's in Fritz Creek, it's outside of Homer. Um, Before I went to the Brooks Range, I locked myself in the cabin for 2 weeks. No phone, no anything, no people, and I did fine. It was great. Went up to the Brooks Range, and I realized that there's a little like radar going on in my head that could pick up people. So that's what was happening in Fritz Creek, and that's what was happening in Seattle. My brain was registering without me knowing that there are people, whether a mile away or next door, and that satisfied some level of I guess social, being social or around people, or just safety, maybe some sort of safety net. In the Brooks Range, there's nothing. As you know, there's nobody for that. You get on the plane in Fairbanks, and the entire flight of 2 hours, you don't see one trace of human. And so that's how isolated it is. And it's different than being alone in your apartment in a city. It's a completely different thing. So yeah, it's a good learning experience, and I've learned a lot about myself through it. You know, I like those challenges. I'm kind of a masochist, so
the we're getting some questions. One of the questions, speaking of, Fritz Creek versus
yeah,
where you're at now versus the Brooks Ranges,
yeah.
how do you determine where you'll be? And is it based on seasons, or how
Mm.
do you decide where in the world is Johnny?
Yep. So the spot. So if you were to look at the map, you would see three dots, and the south central is the Fritz Creek. The middle is where I'm at now. I'm in the interior of Alaska, and then up in the Arctic would be the top one. And where I'm at now, um, I should be at the Brooks Range, but I'm just finishing up building this cabin. And so that way, when I'm not in the Brooks Range, if I need a break from winter up in the Brooks Range, I don't have to drive. It's about a 14, 16-hour drive to get down to Fritz Creek. And, that's tough going, especially when I have a lot of meat. And then it's not that cold in Fritz Creek, right? So when I get down there with the caribou meat, it'll thaw. So I decided I needed to get something in between that's cold, and still in the interior. So where the cabin I have here, a couple miles away from here, is very, very similar to the Brooks Range. There's caribou here, there's moose, there's a lot of wolves. Um, the only difference is I can park, X amount of miles away. I park on this little gravel spot, and then I have to snow machine back to my cabin. So it is still remote access. Um, but it's just basically a spot I can come to when I'm not in the Brooks Range and it's not summertime. So South Central Fritz Creek is summer. This is kind of just my in between, and the Brooks Range is where I want to spend the winters hunting and trapping.
That's great. Another question we're getting is someone who watched the show says they see that you live somewhat primitive on the show, in terms of hand tools, that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. Is that a choice, like, or is it like, are you like, oh, I'm not going to bring an electric screwdriver out, or is it, I guess they're asking about where you find that balance between primitive living and
Yep.
electronic, the modern,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
Yeah. Modern devices or modern
tools. Yeah.
tools. Yeah. To me, and when I started off in the show, I didn't even have a snow machine. I think the only thing I had was like a chainsaw. And then I got the snow machine out there. They strap it on the side of a beaver, a little bush plane, and they fly it out there. And some people gave me criticism, like, "Oh, I thought you were Mr. Primitive, blah blah blah." Well, first of all, I'm not living to anybody's standards. I'm living for myself. I don't care what that means. If I want to get a Power Wheels out there or a jet ski, I'm going to do it. That's why I live here. I live here to live to how I want to live. I don't live here for anybody else's standards. And if they want me to live that way, I encourage them to just do it themselves and see how long they last. For myself, I people live in groups, people live in tribes. Nobody isolation is not normal, as we just spoke about. So I need help. And a snow machine to me is an extra man, it's an extra hand. So that's why I have that up there. I imagine all the caribou. I mean, it was so hard. You remember your film crew? What was the hardest thing in the beginning? Was them keeping up with me on a caribou hunt, following me with cameras. These they call them bowling balls. They're holding the bowling ball at their chest, looking down, like sinking in snow. It was hard. But I didn't get snow machine for that. I got it because it's hard to hunt on foot in 3 feet of snow. It's very very hard. You can't run. So it's just an extra hand. When I go get firewood, it's an extra hand to help me pull firewood. If I didn't have it, I would spend the whole day doing firewood. Who's cooking for me? Nobody. Like I have to do every chore. So in order to do that, I have to have some sort of mechanical advantages. One of them being the snow machine. But the balance I find is the more you have, the more you have to maintain, and the more expensive it is. So if I was to have, let's say, a gas auger for ice fishing, to me that's a waste of time because now I have to bring it. I have to buy one. I have to bring it out there. I have to have now more gas to fly stuff out there. As I already said, is so expensive. Right now, it's almost doubled than what it used to be. The flights. So the less gas I have to bring up there, the better. I don't even have a generator out there. People, have generators. The only thing I have is a snow machine and a chainsaw. The rest I can do by hand. So I guess what I'm saying is it's like what's going to be the best advantage, not so much a convenience, because I don't care about convenience. Convenience and comfort don't mean anything to me.
Explain that a little bit more. What do you mean?
Convenience to me is an expensive habit. Comfort is too. Comfort is the most expensive habit, in my opinion. I've probably said it on every episode we filmed, because it's genuinely how I feel. You want some modern conveniences, like that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But now you have to pay for those, and in order to pay for those, you have to work more. In order to work more, the less you're going to use that modern comfort or convenience, and then it just becomes another exercise bike in the basement. So
Some questions we're getting is about the future, like in terms of what you got going on, and then also like someone's asking, I don't know if they're asking if you have kids, or I think they're just saying generally, if you did have kids, would you want to raise them in this
oh,
outdoorsy lifestyle?
I do not. There are a lot of people that comment and sometimes think I think Glenn or something or other people. They say, "How dare you run away from your family and kids?" I have people say, "Your sled dogs are fat and overweight." I have a lot of people saying weird stuff that don't apply to me. But anyway, no kids. I don't know where I stand with that. But I'll tell you right now, I know for sure if I did have kids, that kid would be strapped to my back while I'm hunting caribou. Absolutely, there's not a doubt about it. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know if the what is it, the child services, whatever department, how they would feel about it. And I don't really care. I would expose that child safely, very safely, to as much as I could. Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's what would keep me like out there even longer and more. would be if I did have somebody out, like a kid with me out there. Yeah.
And then no kids in the immediate term,
Hmm.
but generally, what's next for you? What are you working on nowadays? It sounds like you're building a cabin,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
And what have you been up to from the show? And I maybe talk some specifics, but I'm also more curious from a larger standpoint. What does that mean? How much future planning do you do? Are you living day to day? Are you living year to year? Do you have 5-year goals, 10-year goals, that
Yeah.
kind of thing?
Yeah. Day to day. I live day to day. And that's one thing I like. Problem solving, simple stuff. Wake up. Yeah. Very much day to day. Um, there's always surprises that come up. I found a dead moose recently, and I didn't expect to. So went to butchering on it. And the temperatures are warm right now. A lot. It's insane in Alaska right now. I think it's like 40 degrees right now. In interior Alaska, it should be negative 40 right now. So that's 80-degree difference. So, now it's like, okay, well, now I got to keep this thing from going bad and spoiling, right? I have meat. So it's just always just things come up, is what I'm trying to say. And I never know what's going to happen next. Um, Goals and all that stuff. I just kind of take punches as they come. I don't really plan too much. I'm very sporadic and just make kind of decisions on the fly. I'm building this cabin now, like I said, and as soon as I'm done, probably about 2 more weeks, I'm going up to the Brooks Range, going back, and just finish out the winter there. I might stay through breakup. I might not. I might come back and get to black bear hunting and salmon. So um, yeah, pretty day to day.
Someone's asking about supplies, specifically ammo.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do supply runs? Obviously, you're traveling 3 locations. You're going to go through town so you can pick some up. But
Yeah.
someone's asking generally, like how long are you out there without a supply run? Let's talk a little bit about supplies and
Yeah.
necessities.
Yep. Ammo. I During COVID, I bought like about $500 worth of ammo. And you guys, when you guys came out to film, I don't think there's a time you guys uh, at the production house in Anchorage, the people. So those of you that don't know, there's a place in Anchorage where they store all the cameras and all the equipment. It's like a REI. It's like sleeping bags and tents, and it's an amazing spot. And they do it's a well oiled machine. It's sometimes almost too well oiled, and they just automatically would almost just bring me a box or two or three or five of ammo whenever they could, because we started filming during COVID and it was such a shortage. So you guys were always, I don't even know if you know this, Joe, but they were always, the people in Anchorage were always on top of anytime ammo came up, they just boom, they would scoop it up and just bring it out to me. So I have plenty of ammo. Um, as far as supplies go, I don't eat like bread and I don't bring flour. I don't really eat much of that stuff anymore. I mostly just eat meat, and dried fruit. So for dried fruit, I actually just got I hate to admit, a Costco membership, because they sell just loads of organic. I'm healthy. I eat organic too. So um, like I stopped putting chemicals in my body that I enjoyed putting in my body. So why would I put chemicals in my body that I don't enjoy? So that's why I eat like organic dried fruit, just shit tons of dried fruit. I bring tons of dried fruit. Um, and that's pretty much all I eat is just dried fruit and meat and fat from the animals. Sometimes I have to go to like a local farm and get some fat, and render it down, because uh, there's only so much fat on a caribou in the winter. They're pretty lean. So, and you have to have fat. It's very important. So yeah, as far as supplies go, there's not really much. I bring three of everything: 3 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of pants, 3 pairs of long johns, 3 hats, three of everything is my thing. My theory is one you're wearing, one is drying, and one's backup. And I always just wear the same thing every single day. So I don't even really, need to bring too much clothing either. So yeah, just and tea would be the other thing. Tea and dried fruit is pretty much all I bring.
And then we're getting some questions
Yeah,
about friends and family. Do people ever come visit you? Particularly, obviously, people can visit you in the like in the Homer
Fritz
region.
Creek and yeah.
Yeah. But like, do people ever come visit you in the Brooks Range? And how? And it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, it is. My brother did. And once again, it was, we leaned on the camera crew. When you guys would come in, you would leave empty because you guys would drop your gear off, and then when the flights would come, the bush planes would come to pick up the camera crew. The plane would come in empty. So that actually piggyback on the supply thing. That's where I would get my stuff. I would have them put it on the empty plane that came to pick up the camera crew, and I threw my brother on one of those planes, and he came out and we had a great time out there. Yeah, it was awesome. It was really good to have him out there. My brother's like my best friend, so we're pretty
That's
close.
that's great. So it's possible, but not easy. Uh,
It's expensive, and you never know how long you're going to be out there. That's the hardest thing is like having somebody that wants to like, I'll take a week off work and come out there, and that won't work because I remember we had. I've been stuck out there for 9 days. I asked the pilot on the little satellite. I have a little satellite texting thing. Um, and I asked the pilot to come pick me up, and he couldn't come for like 9, 10 days because it was in the negative 60s, and he just couldn't fly. So um, imagine if like a friend or family member came out and they had to get back to work and they were stuck an additional 9 days. It's not convenient, to say the
Funny,
least.
I have a friend in town right now, and he's here for like 2 days, and that's good. And then I can imagine it's like, okay, well now you're stuck for another 9 days. Not just that, you're stuck
Yeah,
in a 10 by 10 uh cabin.
it is 10 by 10. You're right.
And then we're getting some questions about the extreme environment. Someone's mentioning they saw you on the show where you had to dispatch a wounded animal.
Mhm.
Um, I guess if you can talk about a little some of the more memorable encounters you've had or extremeness, one that we either on the show or
Yeah,
after the show.
yeah. Gosh, bear encounters. There are a handful of times where I think we've documented it once before, where um, I will finish the wounded animal off with a knife. And again, like I've had some sketchy situation shooting where I should have made better shots. And I did realize how far away they were because, like I said, I was so new in the beginning at shooting a rifle with a scope. Um, so, but there are other times where I've learned I prefer to dispatch them with a knife or kill them. I don't want to say dispatch. I kill them. The animal deserves that. I kill the animal, and and yes, they might be suffering for an extra 45 seconds, maybe an extra minute. But if I shoot them again, the meat damage and the meat loss is going to be greater, in my opinion. It's as if somebody said to me, if I was suffering on the side of the road from a car accident, someone said, "Hey, we can kill. I could kill you right now, but if you were to hold out for 1 minute, I know a little kid that needs your heart that could use your kidney." I would say, absolutely, yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait an hour. You know, so I kind of look at it like that. It's unfortunate they might suffer a little bit longer, but I'm gonna maximize the yield of meat out of the animal. Does that make sense? So yeah, jump on the animal's back and I'll slit their throat, um, and and I'll maximize the amount of meat because a bullet does a lot of damage. So
Did you have, is that something you had to work through in terms of, you mentioned suffering. Um, did is that something you think about in terms of animal suffering and what needs to happen in order for you to, have the protein?
yeah, yeah. I always say the day I feel good about killing or the day I smile and high five and shake hands with somebody I'm hunting with is the day I'm done hunting. I'm not into what they might call like recreational or sport hunting. I'm just not into it. A gun is a tool to me. I'm not here to judge other people that do it, um, because I might understand it's like they're one time away from their town life or something. They just want to get out into the woods and they're excited, and how they show excitement might be different than how I do. But I'm doing it strictly just for food. I don't care about, they call it grip and grin. You grab the antlers of the animal and you smile with it while they're dead. And I like to show stuff. The times I do use social media and show the animal and show what I've hunted and stuff like that because I'm trying to keep the lifestyle alive before it becomes illegal to like hunt as well, or you know, to encourage people to find their dreams, to live out their own dreams. So that's why I might like post like a dead animal or something like that, but it's not to show it off in any way or like look what I did, you know.
What have you
Yeah.
found to be the most challenging being out there? You know, we've talked about bears, we talked about the
Mhm.
extreme, we talked about isolation. What has been the biggest challenge for this lifestyle?
Discipline, self discipline. Um, I don't have anybody telling me. I don't have a job, alarm clock. I don't have these things telling me it's time to get out of bed. It's time to get up. You might wake up one day and say, "God, I'm not feeling it today. I don't want to get out of bed." But you have to. I mean, you have kids. You know, they're going to drag you out of your bed. You have a job. You have meetings at this time and that time. You have these obligations that maybe other people have set or you've set, and you have to honor them. I don't have to honor any of that. It's all up to me what I do, and everybody wants that freedom, and I think it's one of the most dangerous things to an individual, especially while being isolated. Um, I don't have to, so I try to live by a very strict schedule um, to make it work. Freedom is dangerous. It very much is, and so I try to like wake up. I wake up at 6:30 every day. Um, and I just lay there. I don't there's no phone to grab and all that. I just lay there till about 7, and then at 7 I get up, make tea, hang out with job till about 7:30. It's just kind of a schedule to go by, and I still, like I said earlier, I still live kind of like day by day, hour by hour, but there is still structure within it. So and once I start my day off that way, the rest of the day just kind of flows and comes together. That makes sense, you know.
How unexpected usually are your days? Like when you don't have a schedule, right? I mean, you kind of know what you're doing. Like, okay, I got to finish this cabin, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, the other day you found a dead moose, and then there goes your day. Like, are those the best types of days, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, those are the best days. Yeah. Yeah, because that's what I'm out here for, is that adventure, that excitement, the unpredictability, not knowing what's going to come next. I'm very much addicted to like what's around the next corner. And that's not always a physical thing too. Sometimes it's mental, right? Like we're just trying to grow, trying to be a better person. Um, yeah.
Getting some questions asking about isolation. We'll talk a little bit about I don't call it celebrity, but being known. You know, you choose to live out isolated, and then you go into town. Do people recognize you, and what's that like?
Sometimes it's interesting because it's something I'm trying to get over now more. Um, I was just in Anchorage recently, getting supplies, and um, I don't know if it's in my head or what, but I don't like being like noticed in general. But before TV, like I just like to be kind of under the radar. Get into a store and get out. But then I got the gift of gab sometimes, right? And I'll, start, goofing off with the cashier or the clerk or whatever. And I'm starting to get attention. And then now that I'm on the show, um, it's always in the back of my mind. And it's something I got to kind of, like I said, now that we're not filming, a lot of things are kind of just like coming in to my brain and I'm trying to like navigate them. And it's all good stuff. So it's just something I'm trying to navigate right now, to be honest. I don't have like a great answer on that. Because I like when someone comes up to me, it's like, hey man, I really you've inspired me. I've had that happen a decent number of times, and it makes me feel good. Do I didn't do the television for that, but it's nice to know that I did inspire somebody. And that's why I like to talk about my past with like the addiction and all that, because I want to inspire other people or show them that they can overcome things. They can make their dreams come true. They can, just trying to relate to as many people as I could. I don't know if that answers your question. I was
It
kind of
does.
all over.
No, we're getting some great questions. Someone's asking, like, after a day like today, you're doing a long interview with me or a long
Yeah,
phone call, or the crew is there. Do you find that you get, you know, you need the break, right? Like,
yeah,
do you find that you need to like, I just got to get back in my own
yeah, yeah,
space?
yeah, totally. Yeah, when the crew leaves, it's nice. It's nice to kind of just take that breath. And sometimes yeah, as you know, I've left with the crew, or when they do, and resupplied, and then it's nice to go back up there and kind of like I hit the refresh button.
So we're getting a question about schedule. When
Mhm.
you're out there by yourself, what are your nights like? So like, okay, you've done everything you can during the day. You've worked. Are you reading a book? Are you logging onto Netflix? Are you, and what's that like? Do you eat 3 meals a day? It's like, okay, well, it's after dinner, and now I don't know. Yeah, what are your nights like?
Um, it's usually with this fur monster, shed machine here. Um, oh, the evenings are the best. They're the best. I'm usually just dead. Um, Especially in the Bricks Range. I mean, everything you do up there is just exhausting. Just walking, post holing in snow and uneven ground, trying not to slip. Um, it's the night times are the best. I feel like I do everything I do to enjoy those few hours of evening time, nighttime. I read a lot, lots of books. I don't read nonfiction. I usually just like reading stories, accounts of people living in crazy ways, historical
I
books
hope you're gonna
mostly.
say romance novels, but
Yeah, maybe send me a couple in the mail. We'll see how I do with
okay.
those.
Do you read about
um,
people living in Alaska, or what kind of books do
not
you read?
not as much anymore. A lot of indigenous books, like mostly. So you have the two different indigenous, I guess, groups, or not groups, but bloodlines. Maybe in Alaska, there's the interior, generally interior, with the Athabascans, which one might call Indian, and then you have your coastal, which is generally going to be you Inuit or Eskimo, as some like to be called and some don't. Um, so I love reading books about the Inuit. Um, the Siberian Yupik is one of the Inuit groups. The Inupiaq, or some people will say Inupiat. That's how it's phonetically spelled, but it's not how you say it. I love reading those books. But now that I'm out here, I've been reading a lot of like just American history books. I think the last one I read was Astoria. It was pretty badass.
Nice.
Yeah, wild accounts. Yeah, of what people do. So
You mentioned you don't really plan that much for the future, but what do you have a overall goal? Is it to like have a sustainable lifestyle? Is it to have 100 cabins? Is it to have primary cabin? Like sort of what kind of overall
I'm poly
goal?
cabin.
Yeah.
I have my primary cabin, and uh, let's see, what's the deal with that? Um, yeah, like I said, now that like the dust is settling, because most of Alaska was doing the show, right? I didn't have Alaska before that. Something that Chevy and I talked about a lot. Chevy and we talk quite a bit. He's one of the best people I've met, one of the nicest people I've ever met. Um, he even said to me, he's like, man, it's crazy. I'm jealous of where you're at because you're doing all this new stuff. And I was saying, no, I'm jealous where you're at because you have an Alaskan already like within you. All you have to do is just go do it. So we're both overlooking our what would make us appealing on a show or compelling. So now that I'm kind of like figuring things out where I'm at, I'm not doing the TV. Um, I want to have the place where I'm at right now. I want to have this place dialed in, um, just everything dialed in. So it's just kind of like a well-oiled machine, well-oiled camp. For example, I'm going to be digging down 10 feet into the permafrost, and I'm building an underground. Um, they do it in Siberia. It's going to be my freezer essentially year round. So I don't always, because I guess what I'm trying to say is my challenge is always trying to figure out, do I have meat that's going to go bad? Was it going to be warm tomorrow? I need like a better infrastructure without having electric, because I don't want electric. I think I want to always live off the grid. I love it. So I think I just need to make better infrastructure to where I can bounce around, follow resources, go camping long term, and not worry about like meat going bad or um yeah, I want to have like an awesome like outdoor butcher station and just more of a home base. I'm living out of bags and stuff and jumping around cabins all the time, so very nomadic. So I think I just a home base is my answer, simply put.
Um, Speaking of the future, we all know that Java will live forever.
Yeah. Do
In
I
you
want another dog?
Yes.
I'll keep it easy on you. I I do. Yeah. Um, the dog breeds that work for me aren't necessarily great dog breeds for the Arctic, so that's my problem. So you could get a Malamute, right? And a Malamute is, Alaska Malamute. I think that's a state dog. They're they can hold their own in any temperature. They don't need booties and stuff like that to walk on the cold snow and the ice. But they have a prey instinct, a prey drive. I just couldn't have one of those with me. I mean, they're the best animal you could have. They're the best dog you could have in the bush for the cold and the environment. But they're going to chase after caribou. They're going to bark at animals. They see a wolf. They're going to run at it. They're curious and they have prey drive. Java just looks at me always like, what do I do? Now those dogs are intelligent in other ways. I'm not saying they're not intelligent. A Malamute can walk on a river and show you where to walk so you don't fall through the ice. Java isn't the best at that. So they have their strengths, but the dogs that would work for me in the Arctic aren't really Arctic friendly. And right now I'm thinking of a Newfoundland. I don't know if you're familiar with Newfoundlands. They're big as hell. Now that the 150-pound dog, now that's an extra 150 pounds on this plane that I can only bring 400 pounds on, right? So there's a lot of challenges with trying to figure out like the right dog breed, and that's kind of where I'm struggling right now.
Speaking of companionship,
Yeah.
some people are asking about dating. How do you can you as a I think are you one of the only single people, relatively single on the show? I think maybe. So what's it like dating in the interior? You just said you fly for 2.5 hours and don't see a single neighbor. So
Yeah. Yeah. Tinder's hot up there, man. Yeah, the polar bears and everything. Um,
or is
yeah,
that
I don't know.
companionship something that's not, I don't know, like how important is that to you?
It's also something I've been thinking about and trying to navigate and figure out. So I don't really have a great answer on that.
Well, I'll tell people can reach out to you if they want to go on a date. I'll send
There
them.
you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's I think I want to get myself situated better, get to a better spot. Like I said, I want to get a better infrastructure and of where I'm at and just have more of a flow because this project is new where I'm at. It's a new cabin spot. Um, so I just want to kind of just get my stuff dialed in before I introduce somebody else into my life.
Makes sense. Figure out
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Um, Getting some more questions about Java. Does Java eat dog food or does Java eat whatever you eat?
So she did really really well on the raw dog food diet. And then after her surgery, which was I think like 2 years ago or something, she just something happened and she couldn't do it as well anymore. So I got her on like a special kibble, which is a nightmare because that's more stuff I got to haul out into a bush plane, right? So
Originally, she would eat whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But she does well with fish, eating fish. So when I'm up in the Arctic, I do like maybe like this much kibble, this little thermos lid, and then the rest like fish. She does really well with fish, but I used to do more of a raw diet, and yeah, something changed. Something changed. She gets a lot of diarrhea from it, stuff like that. So kind of
Uh,
mixed diet.
all right, we probably have about 10 more minutes, so people want to ask more questions.
Cool.
I'll try to
Yeah.
get to all of them. And then generally, I want to ask about going back and forth. Obviously, you spent a lot you mentioned your childhood, like to the left was civilization, to the right was farmland,
Yeah.
Um, what do you find to be the biggest differences? Now, of course, obviously, one has people, one doesn't. But I don't mean that. I mean, like, is it the Sue talks about sometimes the quietness, how it's like, oh shit, it's so quiet. Like, what, or, light, what do you find to be the biggest differences? And could be mental
Hmm.
stuff as well between isolation and society.
Um, the when you ask questions, my brain just goes to things automatically that like I tend to kind of just sit on or think about. So I think some of the times they're answering your questions, and some of the times they're just like, "This is a thought I've been sitting on for a month." So I don't know which one this one's going to be, but the biggest difference is I feel like it's just simply put, it's real. I feel like it's just real. Being in the Brooks Range, I feel like is real life, and I don't want to like offend anybody or because I don't think that there's one. I don't think everybody should live the way I do. I do not. I don't think I'm living the right way that society should live. I'm living what's right for me, and that's all that matters. So I don't want to sound like anything like that, but it's personally, it's almost kind of screwed me living up in the Brooks Range because it's hard to take life serious when I'm not up there. It's just doesn't feel real to me. Um, Life up there just has so much meaning. It's so fulfilling. It's so just pure and honest. I mean, nature is the most honest thing. It's the most pure, patient, magical, miraculous thing. It's perfect in every single way. And when I'm not in the Brooks Range, when I'm not engulfed in nature, because I can still feel that way where I'm at here. Um, when I'm in civilization, I should say, it just doesn't feel real. It just doesn't make sense. Seeing, it's hard. I struggle. I can almost judge sometimes, and I do my best not to. But like you see someone just like an overflowing shopping cart of stuff, I'm like, that makes sense for their life. It does. I'm not judging it, but it's hard for me to understand. Like, man, like that might have been me, 6 years ago. It's not that long ago, but it's just such a stark contrast, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So just life doesn't feel as real. It feels superficial when I'm in society.
I love that. I mean, basically the raw nature, and nature is truth. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, being in nature, you talk about you don't necessarily care about comfort, but it is, and we've seen it on the show, it is struggle. It is hard work. It is constant work. But do you find that the difficulty, the extreme, the working constantly to be easier?
Hey, do you sleep with an eye mask on or earplugs or anything like that? Do you have like a white sound machine or anything in your house?
Yeah, all those things. I
Yeah.
got two kids, so
Do you know what mine is? Mine is just it's all that hard work. It's the best sleeping medicine I've ever taken in my life. It's just phenomenal. Another thing is I had to stay in a hotel the other day, and it's hard for me now. This is gonna sound like woo woo, but it's like I can feel the Wi-Fi in the walls. I can feel the electric in the walls. You can feel the hum. I can sense it. I can hear it. I can feel it. It's one of the hardest things to do is to sleep inside a building that's got cords and wires in the walls. It's such a struggle for me. It's like I just don't even bother trying to sleep. Um, that's why I love being off grid so much. It's just it's so what I'm saying is all that hard work is the antidote or whatever for all life's problems. It really is. It's I'm not overthinking. I'm not uh, getting a sales call. I'm not getting like, is this person at the store trying to like sell me a TV? Like I don't have to like think in that way. Like someone's trying to manipulate me. Nature doesn't do any of that. It's just perfect. And that's why I like about living in nature. I don't have to think. I don't have to think in that like kind of paranoid or like someone's trying to get me, someone's trying to sell me something, someone's trying to whatever, rob me. I don't have to think about any of that stuff. And of course, the animals want to steal my food all the time, but that's nature.
you know, Vicky's asking a great follow-up question to
Hi,
this,
Vicky.
which is, do you worry though you're out there and you're alone and everything is perfect? but also you could get injured. You could get hurt. You
Oh yeah.
could fall into the ice. You could get attacked by,
Yep.
a variety of things. Do you worry about getting injured? And what happens if you do get injured?
So that's part of the mental stimulation that I need out there is um, just take your time, think, plan, be precise, and listen to your instincts. Just listen to yourself. Don't second guess yourself. If something is saying like, man, I don't know if I should, just stop right there. Just don't. It's that simple. I don't, well, but maybe. I never do that in my head. Well, maybe I could. Well, maybe I should. Just walk away. Go find a different place to cross that river, or sometimes I feel like you can ask the camera dudes. I'll be like, it kind of feels like Barry, like kind of feel like a bear or something, maybe danger, and I just remove myself. And I was that way too when I was younger. When I was, on the south side of Chicago, copping drugs from strangers, you don't even know what you're getting or whatever. Open air market, cops and undercovers, and sometimes I would just drive away. Like I should not be here right now, and just leave. You just gotta listen to yourself and trust yourself. So I think that keeps me out of danger and trouble quite a bit. Is just trusting my instinct.
You think that the drugs that you sought out, were a direct response to you not being where you should
Yeah,
be?
yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know, it was out of high school. It's like get a job. Get a job, go to work, and I saw how hard my dad worked, and keep a roof over our head and fed, and I don't know how he did it. I couldn't have done what he did. And I think like, man, I don't want to necessarily do that. Not that what he's doing is like not the right thing, but I don't think that's for me to that extent. 4 kids, and so, but I didn't know what else I could do. I didn't know what I could do, and I had to figure it out. I had to hit rock bottom. I had to explore the depths of hell to then find what my heaven was.
What was rock bottom? Meaning, like, how bad did it get?
Pretty bad. Yeah, really bad. I was a heroin junkie for what, like 8 7 8 years or something like that. Um, and nobody ever wakes up and is like, that's what I want to be when I'm older. Um, it just happens. Nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to them. But we all know somebody, and yeah, I was kind of like squatting in an apartment. No power was on and stuff, and um, just manipulating people, trying to get money, and then my sister came and found me and was like, "I'm taking you to this place in Chicago." So it was a homeless shelter slash rehabilitation place, and I think I told the story on one of the episodes. And um, it was a rough place. It was a place where they send people that like get a second chance instead of going to prison, like nonviolent offenders. And those people just like slapped me into shape. They were like, "You can do anything you want," um, and just really, I'm talking about the people that were in it with me, not like the counselors. And they just really just showed me their hell versus what I thought my hell was, or what my hell was. And I realized I didn't have it as bad as other people. So I decided I was done.
Pretty amazing. And how long have you
Yeah.
been sober?
Mm. For 14 years, I think. Yeah, 14 and a half. Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And I still had that hustle. It's funny because right after that, I went and I got a job at that 3 Michelin star restaurant, Alinea in Chicago. Um, and I went from, I think I was still in the homeless shelter while I was working there, and I was making like 6 figures, which is crazy. And that's that hustle in me. I just went into the restaurant, and I was like, "Hey, you guys should hire me." And they're like, "What experience do you have?" I was like, "I think I told them none." I was like, I think I just said, "Just give me a week of no pay. I'll show you how hard I can work." Because that's one thing I can do is work hard. And yeah, I worked there for a week. no pay. And I think like by like day 3, I think they were like, we're gonna pay you, and they kept me on. So kind of a cool story.
That's pretty amazing that that kind of helped you. It seems like a lot of people get help from kitchens, right? Like from working in kitchens. That industry seems to attract people
Yeah.
who are struggling, and kind of that is similar to people who end up trying to make it off the grid, right? Trying to live
Hmm. It
in
is
that.
funny, huh?
It kind of is. Maybe talk a little bit as we start to wrap up. Maybe just talk a little bit about um, that journey, a journey of hope, right? I mean, a journey. I mean, you're a
Yeah.
great success story. You could have died or gone to jail,
Yeah.
and you're basically um, living a dream and starting life over. And I don't know, do you find hope in do you feel proud of yourself? Do you feel hopeful?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Sometimes I think I should be helping more people. I should be doing something, because heroin addiction is not something a lot of, I think it's single digits people recover from it, like a single digit. Um, and I kind of think I have the ability to help people through their own. Um, and sometimes I do feel a little selfish that I'm just like out here, like, I made it, and now I'm doing what I want to be doing, which is not a bad thing. I shouldn't feel guilt for that, but that's why I think I liked to talk about it on the show a lot. And of course, the show can only put in so much. I'm only on the screen for 12 minutes or whatever, but um, because it's kind of my way to try to give back, and I still do donate a caribou every year, to a homeless shelter or to a family in need. That's something that I've consistently done, since being in Alaska. Um, but I wish I had more. It's something I'm thinking about without doing the show, is how I could help other people with maybe recovery. You know, whether it's like build some cabins at this interior spot and do like a little like camp for people, or I don't know. I really don't know, but I'd like to do something to give back.
Well, it's incredible to give back, and I think part of that, is being so open and sharing your story. And I know
Yeah.
I've we get a lot of emails, various fan emails, various stuff, and people say they really respond to that, right? Like it's pretty amazing to
Oh, cool.
obviously watch somebody harvest or kill a caribou, and everyone loves Java, but it's really that the human
Hmm.
condition and your ability to open up and share your story, and then show your successes, I think is why people enjoy watching you. So I don't know. I want to say personally, thank you for
Yeah.
being on the show, and thank you for opening up so much.
Yeah. It's been therapy. It has to wrap up with that, I guess, is I always felt like some shame or something from it, right? And the show has offered me a chance to be more open without judgment. And because the first time I did it, you remember, it was like a big deal. I was like, I hope you guys don't make me look bad, and da da da. And suddenly I got a flood of messages of people that are like, hey, my son or my daughter or myself, went through the same thing. And suddenly the whole world can relate. And it felt good to see other people not feel alone. So I guess that's what the show was for me. I guess that might be something people might be curious about. The biggest thing I took from the show was it was like therapy for me.
Well, that's great. Well, we'll
Yeah.
probably wrap with that.
Yeah.
I'll try to answer some questions in the chat, questions that
Java,
I
say bye.
know,
Come here. Come
and I
here.
can maybe
Come here.
get oh yes, let's say bye to Java.
Come here, Java. Sit up. She's tired from running. Java, say bye.
Oh, there you go. Hi, Java.
Say bye, Java.
So thank you very much for being part of this, and we'll have the season finale Zoom tomorrow. So
Okay,
thank you,
yeah.
Johnny. Thank you,
I hope
Java.
the episodes have been good. I haven't seen one of them. So if anybody wants to send me a message, tell me how they felt about them, let me know, because I don't have a way to watch them. So it'd be cool to hear. Thanks
All right.
everybody for the support. Appreciate it all. Thanks again, Joe. We'll see you guys. Is that it? We're done?